Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now? Yes. So, hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here. This was a last-minute invitation, so I will just try to be very spontaneous to talk to you about three topics that caught my attention here, which is justice, choice, and cooperation. And the best way to introduce the justice issue, which is a very welcome part of the Eat Lancet report, is to tell a personal story, so please allow me to share with you some family story that, although it's particular, it's shared by millions of Brazilians. I came from a family which suffered a lot from hunger. My grandparents suffered a lot from hunger. My parents suffered from hunger. I escaped. Now I am PhD. I'm doing well. But I can't help to recall a story my grandmother, she only told me that when I was already researching hunger. She told me that she and my grandfather, they had this small rice field in the countryside, and then a heavy rain came and washed the rice away. And because of that, they had to migrate to the big city of São Paulo to live in the favelas. And then they packed everything they had, including my father, 3 brothers. The 5th was in the belly. And when they arrived in São Paulo, they were able to buy 1 plate of food. Only the children ate the food. No one complained. No one cried. And the most sad part of this story is that no one cried. Because, you know, hunger can be such a heavy structure upon people, restricting their choices, that they were not allowed to cry or to complain. And that's unjust for me. That brings me to the justice issue that we have been discussing these days. Because my grandmother, what could she do? How can she fight against the structure? She can't. How can individuals cope with this structure? They can't. So they need to act collectively. And that's why we need the state power to do this. The state is collective action. And we learned in these 2 days that public purchases is a wonderful way to use state power to transform systems in the way we need. We learned that we can use school feeding programs. So the state can feed the children when the parents are not able to feed their children. The state may feed the healthy food, agroecological, organic food to the children of nations. And they didn't need to go through all that suffering, but you know, the state helped them to do this. I cannot go on without mentioning the hunger and starvation that's being posed on Palestine right now. We are talking about planetary health diets, but we cannot forget about people going hungry. We cannot forget that hunger should not be used as a weapon of war, of colonization. And then I want to talk about choice, because, you know, I escaped from hunger, and then I was able to choose if I would eat a pear or a plum. I was able to fight against my mother because, you know, we are going to have chicken twice a day, right? Chicken twice a day. Who likes to repeat their meat? And then I have had more choice, but now the choices, for my generation, the choices somehow compelled us for ultra-processed foods. And then we are a generation that's growing with obesity, heart diseases, diabetes, non-communicable diseases, and all of that. And part of that are choices, but also constricted, restricted by a structure. So please let us not forget about structure. And to change structures inside our countries, our cities, and globally, we need international cooperation. We need a strong multilateral system. Inequality is inside the countries and in international relations. Countries should bear their responsibilities, their common but differentiated responsibilities. And how can we get that? Well, COP30 is a good option, is a good opportunity. It's going to be hard to be there, but let's try to be there. Let's try to get together there, and let's try to cook a very good dish for us, like the ones we had in the past few days. Everyone can bring an ingredient. Everyone can bring an input. Let's put it all together. Let's spend time putting them together, make something coherent, so then we can put together diets, food production that can be regenerative in terms of agroecology, and so we can also address social injustice. And I forgot to present myself. I am from the Ministry of Agrarian Development and Family Farmer, and we welcome you in Belém in November. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I like Jack and Friends. I like being friends. I'm feeling quite emotional, I think. We were brought up here a little bit late. I had to wear a shirt. But there's one line that has been in my mind. I heard it yesterday morning, and it's, "Words are the connective tissue of our society." So I'm going to tell you my story, my words. I'm Irish. I was born in a very small town on the southwest coast of Ireland. But I grew up in a family that really struggled with addiction. And a lot of our family income went on feeding that addiction rather than us sitting on the table, around the table. And we saw that on our plates. It was usually food that was quick to make, maybe not as nutritious, but my mom really protected my sister and I from this. She really did her best. She was a very strong female role model in my life. I actually have 4 aunts. My grandmother, she's 94, she's still alive. And my mother brought my sister and I to live with our grandmother. And she lives in a very rural town. And it's the first time that I smelled cow pats. And I was like, this is what rural life is. This is amazing. There's cows next door. There's greenery. There's fields. There's the sea. And my grandmother brought me out to her garden. And she had an apple tree. And I regret to say now, but I'd never seen an apple tree before. I actually didn't know the difference in a tomato and an apple. And I didn't know you could go and pick that apple off the tree and eat it there and then. It was fascinating to me that this is what food is. This is what life is. This is what science is. My grandfathers were fishermen, long line, generations of fishermen. Back when fish was affordable, when lobsters were affordable, my mother used to bring lobster sandwiches to school and trade them for ham and cheese sandwiches. Could you imagine that now? And I think we live in a world surrounded and produced by incredible women. And we see that in the commissioners. We see that in Gunhild leading the way and using privilege to create space for sustainability, create space for others. And I see that today. I see mothers with their children in the room, and I'm thinking about all the women who aren't here, who don't have access to this space. Women who are the peace builders, the peace creators of our society, but also the protectors of our food system, of our indigenous knowledge, of our history, who feed us and feed themselves last. I'm thinking of the female smallholder farmers. I'm thinking of the mamambogas who are in the markets, who are feeding people and making an income for themselves, and they can't be here today. I just want to remind everybody that they are leading the way, and I want to celebrate the women who are really changing the way our food system is being seen. They're changing the way we look at food. They're changing the way we feed ourselves. And I think of my grandmother. And I think of my sister. And I think of future generations. And I love the energy that's here. Reminds me of when we set up Act for Food. When we stood at the back of a room and realized that the future of food was being created without the future. And we took that into our own arms, and we took control of that, and that's what I see here today. And I'm so excited, and I'm so impressed by the energy in this room, and I can't wait to see what happens next. I want to thank EAT and Convene and the Stockholm Resilience Centre and everyone else for creating this space and inviting me in, and I hope for the next one we can see more young people here and I can be sharing the stage, or actually me off the stage, and all those incredible young people who I see day to day who are living in extreme poverty, but who are creating solutions for their extreme poverty, who are living in starvation and conflict settings, but who are feeding their community can be here as well. So thank you so much, and enjoy.
Wow, wasn't that impressive? It's also very emotional. We were talking about this over noon, and I was crying a little bit. I'm actually a little bit emotional right now. So I wanted to talk to you about the power of narrative, and so I asked those two individuals to tell us a story. And I think that's a great way of closing this event, because the stories we tell determine the future that we get. And right now, the stories we're telling are not necessarily the stories of a great future, because the challenges we face, they're big, they're global, and they're complex. And we have heard so much about that over the last 2 days. It's an enormous challenge. It's a challenge that we all face. And there's one thing that we require in order to address all of these challenges, and that's collaboration. We need people to come together to solve big problems. We can't solve big problems without collaboration. Unfortunately, collaboration has never been harder. Our societies are more polarized than ever, whether you're in the United States, in Europe, or other parts of the world. And according to the World Economic Forum, misinformation is the #1 threat to society. Polarization is the #4 threat to society. I would argue it's the driver of the misinformation. And it makes every single problem we face as humanity more difficult. We're not spending enough time trying to figure out how to bring people together. And these stories of challenge in an era of polarization can leave some people to feel that we're doomed. Not the people in this room, but there are too many people who hear these stories and they are not inspired to action. For them, it's a failed narrative. I was in New York for Climate Week last week, and all of the stories were about the problems we face and the challenges we face and how much worse the times are. And the stories we tell today, they're about problems and solutions. And people believe us when we talk about these big problems, but if they don't trust us, they don't believe our solutions. So we can scare people, but we're failing to inspire people because we lack trust. And if you lack trust and you talk about problems, you don't create action, you create apathy. And too many people that are not in this room are apathetic when they hear the enormous challenges that we face. And this leads to outrage among some of us in this room that things are as bad as they are. Now, according to Karthik Ramana, an Oxford professor, there are 3 drivers of outrage. The first is when you feel that your future is threatened. The second is when you feel the system is rigged against you. And the third is when somebody attacks your identity. Well, in food, we do those things every day. The plant-based companies talk about ending animal agriculture. They threaten their future. So the animal agriculture works with government to create regulatory barriers for plant-based products. So now the system is rigged against them. And so we don't notice the things we're doing that are contributing to the outrage that others feel. We just are outraged by the things that they do. We need to do things differently. We need to collaborate and not create outrage. We need a virtuous cycle, not a vicious cycle. And in order to do that, we need a new narrative. We need to talk about the future of food in a very different way. We need to have a vision of what that future should look like. At Climate Week, at many of these events, we don't have a clear vision of what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to de-risk the future. We're not trying to create a future that people want. And for me, in some ways, it's really easy. We want a sustainable, nutritious, and equitable food future where farmers are thriving and people are healthy and people can aspire to that future. But a vision without a plan is just a dream. And the Eat Lancet report is that plan. But science tells us what we can do. The public tells us what we should do. It does not matter if we know the answer to the question, if people don't believe us, if people don't want to work with us, if we are creating outrage that makes solutions impossible. We need to look inside as well. And one of the things that's missing as well from many of these events is historical context. We talk about problems and solutions, but we need to prove to people that change is possible. We heard this in Gunhild's lunch remarks yesterday, where she talked about reductions in childhood mortality and improvements in, or reductions in food insecurity. So we can talk about it. So I want to give you an example. I spent the last 2 years in the UK, and so CO2 emissions in the UK, 5.5 tons per person. You might not know, but this is a terrible number. This is the sort of thing that makes young people despair for their future. It's also a 150-year low. Doesn't make the problem go away, but hopefully you think about the problem differently in our ability to tackle big challenges if we believe that we have accomplished big things in the past. CO2 emissions, 40% below 1990 levels, GDP 40% higher. We can have a better future and a more sustainable future at the same time. That will inspire people to act. So what about agriculture? Well, agriculture is just the same. I'm a huge fan of Hans Rosling. I'm sure a lot of people in this room are as well. And he reminded us that the world 200 years ago was poor and unhealthy. And because of better health and nutrition, the world today is wildly healthier and wealthier. Of course, there are still challenges we face, but we need to acknowledge the amazing progress we've made to prove to people that amazing progress is possible. And I believe that it is. And so how we communicate matters. We need people to understand that in so many ways, things are not bad and getting worse. They are good and getting better, but not fast enough. That's an invitation to work together to solve the problem. When I tell farmers that things are bad and getting worse, that's like saying, you're the problem. When I say things are good and getting better, but not fast enough, they're like, I've got a long list of things that could help us move better faster. They're already part of the conversation. So how we communicate matters. It determines if people work with us to solve problems or work against us. We have to do a better job. So I want to close by talking about why now matters, why this moment in time is so critically important. Now, you already know we're going from 8 to 9.5 billion people by 2050, but that's when most people stop thinking about the future. After 2050, population growth slows dramatically because we're not having more kids. We have already reached peak child. The number of children born next year will be less than this year, and less the year after that, the year after that, the year after that. So it's not about producing more and more food forever. It's about getting to 2050 without screwing things up. We need to get there without cutting down our forests and draining our rivers, our lakes, and our aquifers, because in many ways, we could be good forever. Every day between now and 2050, it gets harder to feed the world. Every day after 2050, it will get easier to feed the world if we haven't screwed things up. So We need to inspire people to action. We have this huge opportunity after 2050. We can take all the productivity gains of agriculture and use them to reduce its footprint. So the thought I want to leave you with, though, is that the next 25 years are not just the most important 25 years in the 10,000-year history of agriculture, and they are, they're also the most important 25 years there will ever be in the history of agriculture. And that's why we have to get it right, and that's why this conversation is so critically important. But it won't happen if we can't work with people in order to solve this problem. So what I would like to ask you to do is when you leave here and you talk to people about the future, you point out that we're not asking people, or don't ask people, to sacrifice for the future. Ask them to embrace it. The future can be, and should be, and will be amazing if we work together. Thank you. So now I've got something a little unusual I want to try with you, and so I need all of your help for this. I'm going to do a little audience interaction, and I want to leave you inspired, and so in order to do that, I need to transport this entire room to the forest of Brazil. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it together, and we're going to start out by rubbing our hands together. Don't do it yet, don't do it yet. I'm going to start over here, and as I move, I want you guys to start rubbing your hands. And then we're going to start snapping our fingers, and again, we're going to do it as a wave across the room. And then at the end, we're going to be slapping our legs, or if you're on one of the platforms, you can be doing that. And for those who are on a platform, if I jump, I want you to jump. All right? So, and if you want to scream out, if you guys do an amazing bird call or monkey call, feel free to join in at any particular moment. All right? Okay, so here we go. I need you guys. Keep at it. Come on. Stand up. Ready? All right, we're going to do it again. Keep going. And, all right. Thank you. And now over to the real closing. Thank you very much.
Thiago, for a fantastic closing reflection session. And closing means that we are approaching the end of 2 fantastic days here in Stockholm at the Food Forum.
I would completely disagree, because this is neither the beginning nor the end. And what happens at the Stockholm Food Forum is really all about what happens afterwards. But this has been a massive co-creation effort. There are so many people that needs to be thanked for making this into the days we have just shared. And since I'm so tired, exhausted, inspired, I think Valerie said it on stage, connection with direction, that is what I'm taking with me. But there's a long list that needs to be recognized for their contributions, and I'm breaking my own rules now to bring talking points to be able to remember everyone. But all our partners, our knowledge partners, our action partners, the communities for actions, the co-hosts, the culinary partners, the media partners, the funding and the supporting partners, the entire commission, the 70 experts that have contributed, our board of trustees, our advisory board, our special advisors, and the full production team, all the volunteers that have been working late at night to do this, and our entertainers, and of course the entire Eat Dream team. But most importantly, all of you, because the magic that has happened over these 2 days have been the people in this room making this happen. So thank you so much for coming with curiosity, for disagreeing productively, hopefully, for making new friends, hopefully new ideas, new partnerships, new allies will be formed after this forum, and for having fun. It's been incredibly fun, and I was dancing too late in that bar last night. But we will now go out with all the partner-hosted events around the world. You will continue asking questions. You will continue to connect, to engage, to act and transform, and always crave better solutions. So instead of me trying to conclude and to do justice to this, I will actually want you to have the final word.
Take it away.
So it's so great to be here. What I've learned that's new is that there is a diversity of solutions, a diversity of approaches, and we have to get comfortable with that.
For me, my key takeaway from the report is that justice is really at the center of it all.
So for me, the report really drove home the fact that it's not about personal choices, it's about having much better food environments, and that's the responsibility of food companies and policymakers all over the world.
I was surprised by the fact that 5 billion people don't have access to the right food environments, and that makes it difficult for them to make the right choices.
What I've learned getting here is there's a lot of other people on the globe that are sharing the same concerns of sustainable, healthy and just food systems.
What I've learned today is that the Eat Lancet report is the most important thought leadership contribution to how we can change and transform the global food system.
The answer is not going to be a silver bullet.
We crave better.
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 I crave the best to come to stage. I want all of you to come to stage here so we get a group picture before our ways part. So everybody on stage.
Everybody on stage.
Everybody, don't run away. Everybody up the stage. Come on.
Come.
This is a people effort.
Thank you so much.
Step on up.
So much.
Snoop Dogg in the house.
No, incredible.
Yes, please come closely together. We can stand here or sit here in front of the stage as well. The photographer will be on the chair. So we have some space here, people. Some space on the other side as well. Everybody's going to join in, so please step forward. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting there. Thank you for being cooperative. The real point of this stage photo was for me to get out first of the room, so I didn't have to stand in line, so thank you all. No, I'm kidding. Focus, focus. Mr. with the jacket. You, amigo, sneaking photographer, get in, yeah. There we go. This is the real photographer. We had some fake photography here. There's a woman, a lady with the light. Look at her, and then look at the camera. Oh, sorry, have to be back here. Look at the camera. We get a couple more pictures, everybody. Big smiles. Woo!
And one with all the hands up as well.
Hands up. Thank you very much.